Hello, everyone. This is FreePod host Alan Wenzel, and I'm joined today by other FreePod hosts, Tim and Becky Connors, and we're going to do our end of the year retrospective for all of the different interviews that we've conducted this year. We did it last year, Tim and Becky, and it worked out really well. So we're going to do it again.
And it was an educational experience for us too.
Yeah, to learn about everybody and what we were doing. Yeah.
Well, my intent here today is let's just do a review. Some of the most interesting interviews, I think, took place this year with a wide variety of people, all the way from city employees to business owners to people who are just interested in Freeport in general and trying to make it a better place. So where do we start? When you think about the year that we just had, what interview do you go to? What interviews do you think about that you learned from that were pretty cool? Where would you two start with that? Tim, Becky? Becky, go ahead.
Well, for me, as I was thinking about it on the way here today, what I find interesting about the ones that I did anyway is that it's a spectrum from interviewing about things that I'm actually involved in to things that I know about but am not involved in to things that I have never, ever heard about before or embarrassingly have never been to. And so the one that leads me to is when I interviewed Jim Dole at the
Observatory.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. At the observatory. I had never been there before. I have lived in Freeport since 1990 and I had never been there before. And he was such an interesting man. And it was about the International Observing the Moon Night. And then we went to it. We brought our grandsons and we went to it. And when we were there, people came up to us and said, "Hey, yeah, we're here because we heard about it on FreePod." And so that was just a really fun one for me that I learned about something that I'd never been to before. And it was exciting for me.
I think one of the things one of the persons I talked to that I learned a lot from was Brian Caldwell out at the AutoSmart location out east of town where the old visitor center used to be. Here's a guy who came from the suburbs, has a real interest in cars and in classic cars, older cars. And we sat down and talked with him. What an interesting guy and an interesting business model where he finds cars for people. He'll sell cars for people. And he's got a great little showroom out there east of town for some of his wonderful cars. And the neat thing is that he's not just buy a car for me and stick it in your garage and look at it, every day. Buy a car and drive it. Drive an old classic car. And so he's got drivers, cars you just get in and go to the store with and bop around town and have fun with it. And so I found that to be a really interesting interview. But again, I love old cars and I love that topic. So that was a fun one for me.
Well, early on, the first three were former students of mine. And one was Josh Elliott right after his fire.
Oh, sure.
And so we were chatting just to making sure that, everything's okay, just to let everybody know and so on. And then John Garvin's with his new business downtown, but then with Rachel Gastel, who of the historical museum, Rachel Gastel wanted to talk about some alcoholism issues that she had. And she wanted to do a free pod on it. And I tell you, you learn a lot.
Boy, real human interest story there.
I did. It really started off, everyone thinks, we're doing free pod because of this fun thing or that fun thing. Well, there are a lot of issues that take place. And right away, with John and his new store, that was fabulous, his location. But with Josh, are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you going to be back? And yes, I am. And then Rachel's like, I want to do this. And it was a really interesting start of my free pod year.
Well, and again, it's a good indication, Tim, of we run the gamut here in Freeport from, a lot of fun stuff, but there are a lot of important, serious issues at work here too. And we tried to bring some clarity to some of those topics throughout the year. And I think that was a great interview.
Well, and I remember right after that, I'm like, okay, we have to do something else. And then there were two other young individuals that I talked to, John Voles, who, it's like he has his business at the old YWCA, Fitness Lifestyles. And it wasn't just about the fact of him working out or this and that and the other thing. It was about how seniors can stay healthy. And we realize that a lot of our individuals that are on this, that listen to us, are a bit older at times. And it was nice for him to do that. And then I'd say one of my most fun ones was Landon Keister, who works for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, of course.
And who is somewhat of a quiet, introspective individual. And I'm like, I wonder if he'd like to do one. And yes, I would. I'm like, there we go. And it was so cool with a somewhat celebrity in this town that wanted to talk about his time with the Green Bay Packers.
Well, he has such an interesting perspective.
One of the interviews that I conducted early on was bringing a national topic a little bit closer to home, and it had to do with insurance rates, higher insurance rates. Again, on the other end of the spectrum from kind of a fun and upbeat and, why are house insurance rates going up? And Tricia Mickley from the Mount Carroll Frontier Mutual Insurance Company really had some good insights on how insurance companies need to have their own insurance companies to pay for their losses. And as we experience more and more natural disasters around the country, those have to be paid for by someone. And it all gets rolled down to us here in Freeport as a homeowner, putting in our share to help cover the losses that other people in other parts of the country experience. It was a very fascinating, interesting perspective that you don't think much about.
Eye-opening, yeah.
Well, and as a teacher, once a teacher, always a teacher, especially Freeport High School, whatever. I did 2 interviews. One was with 3 state competitors, and it was Peyton London, Mia Ortiz, and Tristan Peterson, and their retrospective of their extracurricular activities. And then my good friend Xavier Lissandro, who's a puppeteer, and he's going to make it big someday. And we just really talked about the concept of, hey, this is your goal as a career, why, what it's all about. And, it's every once in a while you want to get a few of those kids that you see are going to have some success, and you want to find out about them, because someday it may be big time. You never know.
And Becky, I know that you interviewed folks who were involved in performance too. The Winneshiek Players, the Studio 121.
And Alex Jansen at Highland.
Yeah.
He's the tech director out there. So, I guess my beat is the arts and culture kind of stuff, which is fascinating. And I always learn a lot, even though these are people I know and places I know, like Jamie Elliott. It was very interesting to hear what's going on at Winneshiek.
Oh,
They've
sure.
gone through some troubled times and are doing some good things now and getting going again, and for instance about collaborations in the community, because the reason that I talked to her about doing an interview was because Winneshiek very generously shared their theater with the library for One Book, One Freeport. We put on a performance of Dandelion Wine there, and I had interviewed Diane Ludwig about that. And then that branched right over into Winneshiek, and then to Highland, and then to Studio 121 with Sarah Long. So I guess a lot of mine are arts, but they're also artistic things that I don't know anything about that I get to interview too, about the Native American celebration that I interviewed, and I can't. Kim Sagafis, Sagafis, and that was just wonderful to learn about. What a special event out at Oakdale. So. Yeah.
One of the entertainment pieces I grabbed, and I'm sorry, Becky, I hope I didn't take it away from you, was when I talked to Mike Schindler, who was the programmer for Classic Cinemas out of Downers Grove, and talked to him about how movies get programmed into Freeport and how movies get picked and how different communities in which they operate have different preferences for movies, and that can influence what comes to Freeport and what doesn't. But just to learn about the schedule that he's under, and the pressure at times that studios put on them to be able to supply the number of screens that a studio wants for a particular release, and to be able to book that into their theaters and time it all so that everybody gets a piece of the puzzle, a piece of the pie. Very interesting interview from Mike about how movies get rented and put into local theaters.
And the window has been so great. I mean, they came here, in 98, I think, is when they started here. And look how big and wonderful and how lucky we are to have them here.
Well, think about a town this size with a Cineplex. Basically, it's got up to 12 screens. I mean, that's unheard of.
A downtown Cineplex.
Downtown.
Excellent point.
Because now if you look at the Lincoln Douglas debates, I know of all the Lincoln Douglas debates, there's only one town that has a downtown cinema anymore. And that's Freeport.
That's us. Is that
everybody
something?
else, the Cineplexes are out of town and whatever, but we still have a following, and we still have a very solid, and we want to keep it here as long as we can.
Oh, we certainly do. Yes, we certainly do.
You know, as I was looking about it, I had a nice talk with Bill Peterson about his career and also about things that happened with the Park Band. I had my yearly talk with Dr. Anna Alvarado. She always gives me a lot of great information. But I'll tell you, the fun one that I had that I just loved sitting back with was Cub Food manager, vice president, whatever he is, store manager, Kurt Steffen.
Oh, sure.
Just about the concept of Cub Foods and the new hours that they had, but more importantly, the work that they do day after day after day. And Kurt's a wonderful man. But more importantly, how that store has just become such a powerful part of our community.
And a supporter of the community, whether it's through the brat stand or other kinds of activities that they support, Tim. They're a pretty important player when it comes to providing the community with support when we need it in places that we need.
Well, and speaking of community support, I really enjoyed meeting Captain Lisa at the Salvation Army. I mean, I think a lot of us sort of have in the back of our mind, oh yeah, the Salvation Army is a great organization. But I really didn't know too much about the details of their operations. And, she told me about how they do the Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas dinners, which now, by the way, are box meals that they take to people's homes instead of serving en masse there. But the number of lunches that they serve every day there, the programs that they have, helping people who maybe have had some problems in the past, but try to get around, whether it's getting their GED and getting a place to live. They go through and do so many things to help people in our community that I never knew that they did. And, we see the people ringing the bells there and put our money in the bucket. But there is a lot behind the Salvation Army that I wasn't aware of.
A related story that I did, Becky, that gets me thinking along that same line is when I talked to Hester Berry and the vet sellers with the Northern Illinois Food Bank. And when they received the money from 100 Women Who Care of Stevenson County, almost $12,000, I got to sit down and talk to them about the needs that they meet in just this 5-county area of Northern Illinois. It's amazing. The tens of thousands of people that get served every year. And in the Freeport-Stevenson County area, thousands and thousands of folks are helped by their food deliveries to resupply food pantries, schools. They deliver food supplies to schools as needed, and it's just an amazing operation that functions kind of quietly behind the scenes, but does a lot. Like Salvation Army does a lot to help people get fed in this part of the state.
Well, and I think as we look at it, there are some funny ones that took place, and before I talk about that,
you mean like the Polka Fest interview I did with you?
The polka, right, kind of caught me off guard on that one, man. But it's true. The Polka Fest interview, you interviewed me.
Yes, I did. It was fun.
It was fun.
That was a fun event, by the way. Probably
it was
one of the highlights of the year.
Yes, and it's going to be back. So
wonderful.
Yes, it's going to be back a second year. So Polka Fest, here we go. But we have some other ones to talk about, but I guess we must bring up the fact that Becky and I we did an interview with Adam Monterow.
Can we call it an interview? I'm not sure.
I don't know. It was at midnight. It was at midnight. We're all adults, so I can say we each had an adult beverage as we were drinking it. Because what happened, Becky?
Well, that was when a bat surprised us in our home while we were watching a scary show on TV, and Tim and I are screaming, and we both think, who knows how to handle a bat in our house? Who can we call on to help us? Because we're helpless. And our immediate thought was Adam Monterow is going to know what to do in this situation. And he came over at like 11 o'clock at night to help us. So that was a fun interview.
And Tim pulled out the microphone and said, "Sit down, Adam. I want to talk to you."
After it was done, after Tim had finished screaming and running the other way.
Now, do you have to tell everybody that I ran screaming the other way? I did. I know. I brought it up. And yes, I did run outside once, twice. But I think as it was going on, and finally Becky and Adam are upstairs, and I'm outside going, "Come on, Bat, Come on, Pat. But watching that bat, once Adam collected it and have it go up a tree, because you can't just throw a bat out because it has to. And so watching all of this, and after we finished.
He's just very knowledgeable.
Right.
About
And it was
stuff.
like midnight. I said, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
And so we did the podcast. We got the dog, we got Charlie to stop barking, because he was freaked. But it was interesting. And I think the great thing about it is every member of that family has now been on FREEPOD.
Oh, there you go.
So Juliet,
yeah.
and then little Willow, we talked to her a little bit about stuff one time, and now Adam. So that entire family, they're a FREEPOD family.
And you never know where the stories are going to come from.
That's true.
But speaking of Juliet, I mean, many of the ideas for our interviews come from Juliet, and they also come from Marilyn Smith. And it's not just our ideas, and so we're very grateful for people who for giving us ideas and coordinating things.
We've been fortunate to come up with ideas. We've covered 52 weeks. Think about that. We've have had an in-depth interview or an embedded interview every week of the last year. And that's a lot of people to talk to, a lot of different ideas. And we've got more. I know that you've got more people you'd like to talk to. I've got ideas of people I'd like to talk to in the coming year, but it's just part of the fun we're having, isn't it? To think about who could we talk to that would help make Freeport a more interesting and better place to live. That's really what this is all about.
Well, it really is. I mean, I look at it this way. I kind of break down my interviews, individuals in the community, of course, and former students or current students that I have. But also I interviewed 3 individuals that I went to school with, went to high school with. And Tim Cook, regarding Malcolm Eaton and Eats and Beats.
Doing a great job down there, by the way.
And Eats and Beats was great. Tim Mahoney. Not only Tim Mahoney has a new book that's out, but really the history of Freeport and so on. And a really, really fun one was Sam Cimino. Sam Cimino, and I'm giving free advertising, whatever. So I love Ciminos. And those guys do such a nice job. And just listening to the history of Cimino's Pizza was just a really, really cool, solid interview. And he was so pleased and so happy to tell his story and his parents and his family story. And sometimes we don't get to know that. And I'm glad that we got to know that.
A couple of interviews that I did that were institutional, not individuals, but institutional, that I really enjoyed when I interviewed Rich Haight and Chris Kaversky about the YMCA HCC partnership and the reimagining of that partnership and what it's going to look like another 2 or 3 years from now, and the plans that the YMCA has to expand their child care capabilities and to move to a different location, and the college thinking about how they can improve their recreational sports facilities. Very interesting. And I was really struck with the amount of collegiality and cooperation that exists yet 50 years later between the YM and Highland as they make to work this new partnership work just like the old one has for 50 years. And the other interview that I really enjoyed was talking to Mark Gridley about the affiliation of FHN and Mercy Health and what went into that, what was behind that, what prompted those discussions that FHN initiated with up to, I think it was 10 different medical facilities, institutions around the tri-state area, and how they came to the decision of Mercy Health. And that interview, I think, was terribly enlightening because it told me that here are a group of community leaders, including the FHN Board of Trustees, making decisions, and same with the Highland and the Y, making decisions for the future that help secure the future of this community, whether it's healthcare or education or recreation. I thought those 2 interviews were just a good indication of how there are people in this community looking out for the future and for what the next generations will experience here.
I listened to your interview, and it was one of those things, as you know, we hadn't talked about it. We didn't talk about it, but I had been like, so Alan, ask him this. And you asked so many great questions. And if people listen to that interview, you could really tell how much Mark Gridley cares about this area.
He does. He really does. Yes, he does. He has a real passion for making sure that folks here are well taken care of.
And
literally and figuratively.
Speaking of making sure that people are well taken care of, my interview with Sarah Knapp at Voices from the Book Nook brings up, that is a very big need in our community, and well, I guess everywhere, sadly, but for domestic violence victims, and the Book Nook and their book sales, they have so many people volunteer there, and so many, primarily women, but not and children, need their services, and that's a really important part of our community, and that just makes me think of when I go into Lincoln Mall now, and Twice as Nice. You did the Twice as Nice interview, I guess, and all the things that are going on there, in the Book Nook, and it's important stuff. All those parts of our community, I think.
By the way, as we continue the interview, let me remind our listeners that all of the interviews that we've talked about are archived, so that if you missed any of them, you can go back and listen to those again. And it might be kind of a fun thing to do between Christmas and New Year's when you're just kind of sitting around, don't have a lot on your schedule. Go back and listen to some of those interviews that Becky and Tim and I have been talking about. I think you'll really enjoy them.
Right, on FREEPOD.org.
One of the things, and Tim, I'd like your perspective, because you talked a lot with folks who are interested in promoting the community and doing good things for the community, and Becky too. The vibrancy of this community, when you think about all that we have going on here, all the number of people are trying to make this a good, better community. It's a good community already, but even better. And all the individuals who are devoted time and attention in their lives to making something good happen here. And that's what I'm struck by in all of these interviews. Just look at the range of people we've talked to and the wide range of abilities, skills, aptitudes, jobs in which they are engaged. It's really pretty amazing.
It is. And some of the things we take for granted, whether it's, the library or Winneshiek and the groups like that. But also I had a lot of fun interviewing Amara Streigel about the farmers market. Well, you know what? Having that every Saturday downtown, that is a big old deal.
Oh, yeah.
And then having it some Saturdays at the Farm Bureau in the winter, and just hearing how that's organized and how she takes, such pride in it. The farmers market, that's a big deal for our town, I believe.
I do too. And there are so many individuals that are so important to this community growing and getting better and getting bigger. And we've touched the surface, no doubt about it, but there are so many more that are out there. And as FREEPOD grows and goes different directions and moves different directions, there are so many people out there that hopefully listen to us that feel that they have a story and that we can interview and we can show a little more flavor of Freeport because of them.
I think I'm going to put on my list of interviews for next year talking to you about the Sister City arrangement that we've recently made with the
good idea.
The town in Pennsylvania. Well, I'm going to sit down and talk to you, Tim, about that. That'll be fun.
And not to go far deeper.
I guess the point, excuse me for interrupting. The point I'm trying to make is that we've stretched beyond our boundaries here a little bit with what we're trying to do as a city, and even with FREEPOD, we have people who listen to us from all over the country. Who tune into us weekly to find out what's going on in Freeport.
We do. And, hopefully Becky and I will be hitting that sister city pretty soon. And it would be nice to do an interview with some individuals that are down
you bet.
in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, who are our new sister.
Yeah.
I've never had a sister before. It's very great. It's really
I've got
great.
2 sisters.
Yeah. Congratulations. I have one now. It's Lidditz.
And also, speaking of branching out, to other parts of Northwest Illinois, maybe we'll have some more interviews from Stockton and Forest. And
I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
We'll try to push our boundaries out just a little bit further. We're off to such a good start, and these interviews have really given us a good sense of who we are as a community, and we're a region. We exist as a community beyond just a city boundary or a county line. And I think we'll be exploring more of that in the future. I got one more interview that I recalled that I thought really cool. When I talked to Jessica Modica at the Art Museum about their sculpture walk and how they put out an invitation to sculptors all over the United States to bid on whether or not they would like to have their piece displayed in our downtown streetscape along Chicago. And they got a ton of entries, and they picked 10. And again, people from Maryland, from different parts of the United States, their work is here in Freeport being displayed. And I think that's another example of how, it's not just us here in town. We go out beyond our boundaries.
Nice job. Yeah.
So as you sum up the year and think ahead, what's on your mind? Final thoughts, Tim, Becky, about what we just did and what we're about to do next year?
I think it's really easy to find positive things in our community and outside Freeport. I think that's what rings true to me the most, is that there are so many positive things. I don't see us running out of positive things to talk about.
And with those positive things, different directions and maybe spreading out a bit more. I like the idea that maybe we're going to spread out to different communities, different areas, but we all know that my heart is here in this town.
Sure.
And there are many more stories to talk about and many more people to learn about. And I think that's the exciting thing about this.
And the stories range all the way from Charles Guiteau, who shot President Garfield, to an individual just plugging along trying to make sure families are fed and people have their basic needs met. A wide range of topics for us to delve into historically, socially, culturally, and that'll be fun thinking ahead what we're going to do next year. Well, it'll be up to our listeners to tune in and find out who we're talking to this week and who we've put the mic in front of.
Well said.
Nice job, Alan.
Tim, Becky, nice job. Thank you for all of your work on in-depth interviews over the years. And to our listeners, have a great Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and stay warm.